What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, CB myself.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need a hit of traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One set.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man.
200.
200 eps, man. We are doing this thing. We are still doing this thing. Again, still.
Still. And still.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, we were just talking about our 100th episode and how, like, we were so, grateful to be like, oh, we're here on the 100th episode. Never would have thought when we started this it would be 100, and now, and we were even saying in that video, we'll see on the 200th, and now we're here, and we still feel the same way, and there's been even that much more crazier stuff that's happened with just in 100 episodes in our lives that happened. And again, we were able to just document, and we didn't talk every little personal thing in our lives, but just going through different changes I've went through. Now this is going on to my third job. You started, having a lot of personal things going down, and now you're back in school and doing all those. And, it's just crazy how much can change in 100 episodes.
Yeah, man. First of all, welcome everybody to the One Set Podcast.
Welcome.
And thank you, Anth, for the hospitality and having me over to be able to do this episode in person. It came in good timing because you are starting a new job again, so it's going to be tight getting to do these episodes together.
Tight. Yeah, we'll be getting back to our not normal, I guess, anymore, but going back to, recording mainly at the nighttime. So we'll get back to our night out, not too late because we both have to get up in the morning, but this will most likely be our last, Friday morning rendezvous, getting podcasting done, which has been nice. I mean, being home and not getting paid as much hasn't been nice, but just being home and being active and, being able to be around the kids and all has been, the actual benefit to, I guess, not having a job. It's spending more time, especially there was with the amount of time that I put in with the last one, there was just so many hours, and, it just took away from me being around the kids. Now that, I had those months, and now at least with the next job I'm going into, it's a standard 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So now I'm back to what my original job was, going back into a standard Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So now I won't have to worry about being taken away from, T-ball and weekend stuff. And I can, with this, I can still play shows. Friday nights are still going to be a little shaky because depending on the time that I get out, and we were just talking about the commute going home, it's going to be a little crazy.
It now is going to be really tough compared to what it was with the last job that you were at for. You were there 9 months?
Yeah, just about 9.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So when we take the scope of the podcast in the last 100 episodes, mm-hmm. I'd say a lot more has changed for us personally in the last year. Is because you started the new job a year ago. Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy the fact that, like you said, that I'm almost starting the new job, literally almost on the same date that I started the job before. Because I'm looking to most likely start on the Monday, which this will come out most likely. Or no, I'll already be 2 weeks in if we're scheduling this on the date that we said before. So I had already been started, but it's just crazy that it's around the same time that I would have started my other job. So it's almost like rendezvous, deja vu type in way.
And we're on the 2-year anniversary almost. So a year is 52 weeks. We're 4 weeks short. So in a month from now, we would have dropped episode 100 2 years ago, and then you lost you just found out you lost a job for the place you were at for like 15 years. So in our first 2 years of doing the podcast, right, in the first 100 episodes that we were doing, we were up until 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you had been at that job long enough that, like, you could stay up, sacrifice sleep. You only had little Anthony at that time.
Yeah. And I would just help, Jen get Anthony up and out, go to school. I would help her, bring him into school, go right to work. And, over that last year when I was back, everybody really did. I was getting to work at like 7:30. Everybody really started coming in around like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I had like an hour to myself. So I was kind of just
you
like,
didn't have to be, you didn't have to be fully functioning when you got to work.
Right.
You still had the hour. You could get your coffee.
I could
get settled in.
I can just settle and get a cup of coffee, just check messages and not have to worry about like having somebody, ringing in my ear, get right to work. So, I mean, it was nice, but yeah, we definitely sacrificed a lot of like late nights. But the fact that we wanted to, if we didn't love doing the podcast, we would have never been like, oh, I'm not spending like up to 2 o'clock doing a podcast. And like we've always said, the podcast, we've always done this not to just, get views or get, hundreds of thousands of people to like us. I mean, we know we're still a very, very small podcast, but it's just been a documentary of you and I's just, kind of, journey through life.
Whether it be individually, like our own selves, or what, like talking about, our, like, just reminiscing. Dude, we were talking, one of my kids brought up last night, high school reunions. And I was like, about that.
Yeah.
And I told them, I was like, social media literally killed reunions because we can literally see what everyone's up to. I know we talked about this, but
I believe it.
You and I get to catch up and still hold true to the fact that we have been friends for all the years that we've been friends since 1998.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. I think that too. Yeah,
it's 27 years going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the fact that, not about, catering to the audience so much, because we're more so just hanging out, chit-chatting, and if anyone wants to be along for the ride, welcome, and we appreciate you all tagging along. To think about where you and I were when we started the podcast and where we are now is like bizarre to me.
Yeah, because we just, well, you obviously mainly had the idea because I was doing a small podcast of my own, and again, had no really clue of thinking that it can be something that I was going to start actually liking to do. I was just doing more of a music thing and just doing it as a weekly thing because, we were still in somewhat pandemic mode. So I'm like, all right, let me just do this to kind of just do something to get, my mind, from, out of like not doing something, at least have something on to do weekly. And then, I had you on, and again, we've done this, but again, we always have new people watching. I had you on my podcast, we were talking, and after that, you're like, dude, we should try to start something on our own, because we had a lot of like people that we sent that episode to, and they were saying like, you guys have a good dynamic together, you guys should do something together, and or I would like to see like a part 2 of this. And you were saying like, we should try to do something. I'm like, I'm totally down, like we can and then we're always watching Two Bears and like the whole Your Mom's House stuff, and like you said, it's crazy how we started just thinking, oh, it's easy. All you do is just talk. And, there were times where we're like,
I was terrified. Like everything inside of me was like, you shouldn't do, like, this ain't for you. Don't do this. Right.
It took me a while. And even I feel like, because I was never much of a talker either, but just from doing, performances, I had to learn to, kind of speak to an audience. And I feel even the podcast on my end has helped me to be a better speaker on the live performances too, outside of, in between playing songs, to try to keep the audience engaged. And like, instead of just being like, here's another wagon wheel, here's another Wonderwall. Good night. I was able to kind of just start being able to speak to the audience because, again, my recent show that I had for the Delco Quarantine Open Mic Fest, there were people watching, and I was able to, engage with them and talk to them throughout the night in between songs and have a conversation where I feel years ago I wouldn't be able to do that because, I'm not much of a talker, but, we both have gained somewhat of like a public speaking, thing out of this to really just, and it's hard for people if you're ever thinking about podcasting. It definitely is difficult to talk to yourself, especially going solo. And that was a big thing for us when we started doing our own solos, because I had experience doing my own podcast by myself. You, on the other hand, when I was trying to tell you when I went on the hiatus for the first time, it was at least to the point where we were 100 episodes in already, or we were just about 100 episodes in?
So we dropped episode 100.
That's right. We were just
episode
talking.
101 and 102 were my first solo episodes, and I took them because you had just gotten laid off from your job. So
that was the point where I was like, I feel we had that at a certain time, because if I gotten like laid off by like episode 20, we probably would have dropped it at that point. Because I wouldn't have been ready.
Nope.
Tracy Morgan.
He wasn't ready. He wasn't. But like, we did the whole episode on putting yourself in new situations and trying new things and life living outside of your comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
So I knew that I knew going into this that public speaking wasn't my thing, right? And I think along the way, number one, you and I are just having casual conversation, so it's really just relaxing. It's just relax. Don't overthink it. Don't feel the pressure. Granted, we are recording these, not posting them live, right?
Right.
So some of my students in Limerick that know about the podcast, right? Shout out. Because they were asking like, "Oh, you should have us on the podcast." I was like, I'm not bringing any children on the podcast, okay?
No.
So, I was like, we pre-record everything so that we can cross-check to make sure that we aren't publishing anything online that we wouldn't want to publish online. And I told them, like, we don't love going live,
right?
For the sake of, oh no, what if I say something that I shouldn't say? You can't take that back.
Right, because anything that's on the internet stays on the internet.
Oh, forever.
And speaking of live events, we were able to do our first live event at WrestleMania, which I feel is like the craziest time we've had as podcasters, because not only were we a block away from our greatest event that we love watching, we had people come up to us and say, we listen to your podcast, and we're like, ours? Like, me? Like, so it was so cool to talk to people that actually enjoyed it and, were like willing to be like, yeah, we listen to you guys, and, you think you do a good job.
Just the fact that people that we don't know were familiar with the podcast, was like, okay, that alone was like, we're just going to keep doing this. Like, and like, if we get 250, 300, 500 episodes in, and, like we said, we're not doing this for the sake of like, we want to get popular, famous, like
right.
We're not looking to be influencers per se, but documenting our journey through life, and in 500 episodes of the podcast, which will be 10 years of the podcast, right? Right. You and I are going to be entirely different people, and we'll be going back to, I'm looking over at shorts from episodes, the first 100 episodes, and I'm cringing hard at myself, dude. I'm cringing so hard. I'm like, oh. There's the other underlying dynamic there, which I can talk about at this point. I don't want it to consume too much of the episode. We don't have a whole lot of time.
Right.
But, quitting drinking was the big thing that really was a big life-changing situation for me. So, and again, I'm not going to talk too much about it, but going back and seeing me on those Monday night podcasts and being like, dude, so embarrassing. Right? Granted, yeah, it was, we were recording in the wee hours of the night and it was casual and I was relaxing. Mm-hmm. But there were some of those episodes where you were hitting me up and you're like, we got to reshoot that episode. And there
were not even a handful, I'll say, but there were definitely and I was telling you, there's time, and I told you there were times where I can mask it, times where I can be like, all right, I know, I'll just put the camera away when you're kind of like in your little zone thing. But then there were times, like you said, I'm like, we got to reshoot this episode, dude. Like,
this whole thing.
I can't fix this one.
I was too lost in the sauce, dude, and I apologize for wasting our time for those episodes. But since all of that, just getting into the accident, and the concussion and everything. So if you go back to episode like 150, I think it was, and I'm wearing the sunglasses for 3 or 4 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Just everything else started falling in line, and everything started making sense, and starting back to school and feeling like I'm setting myself up for. I'm literally investing in myself, which is weird. When we started the podcast, mm-hmm. I was just coasting. My family had just lost the studio, so I was in like a super dark place, right?
Yeah.
So I leaned into the podcast with you, as a form to like pull me out of that dark place a little bit.
And I think the podcast really did, and I always like to say both of us, but I think definitely for you, it kind of saved you to be able to have those things and talk about it. And not that we really talked a lot about it on the podcast till now a little bit, but it was something to at least keep your mind off the daily things that you were thinking about and just have that couple hours of time where we would catch up, talk, record, and then even after that have another hour of us just kind of talking anything. It just was able to keep your mind off of whatever, and then excuse me, but to be able to just see the progress, and like you were saying, to show how those first couple episodes, because even then we didn't know what we were doing. We were just kind of hitting record, and we either had something to talk about or we were just like, whatever, just let it ride. And now seeing us with our episodes now, it's like we have somewhat of like a lane of what we know we want to talk about, and what works, and what things we like to talk about, things that we think that'll be interesting for everybody to hear about, where we were just kind of throwing a thing out in the ocean and just seeing what works,
waiting to see what.
So I think the first 100 episodes was mainly doing that, of just kind of throwing the line out into the empty ocean and seeing what works. After that, we kind of had somewhat of a structure. Now we knew where to throw those things in, and we've started really getting a little bit of coverage back to mainly, again, our shorts and shorter clips. They started getting a little bit of traction. That started feeding into the bigger episodes. We started getting more engagement and comments from people. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about our biggest still clip was our one that we did, the debut of the Uncle Howdy. Mm-hmm. That is still our biggest video that I think it's now to like 22,000 views, which is insane to talk about.
So that is a matter of timing, right? So
yes.
So you and I have like a schedule when we can record the episode, right? So for people that are social media influencers, like that's what they do for their job. They are able to jump on something as soon as it happens, right?
Right. No, it's definitely a matter of like, we that was something that happened. We're like, dude, we just gotta record that real quick, even if we do an episode after that, but that's something we gotta just shoot and put out the next day.
Yeah.
And that'll lead us into that episode to check out the rest of the episode later in the week. But this is something we gotta throw in, and
That was just a test for us to see like how can we garner attraction to the podcast, and that's literally you gotta jump on something as soon as it happens.
And I think we gained about 100 to 150 subscribers just off that video. Like I remember still posting that, and the next morning my phone was blowing up.
Right. So anytime that we talk about anything that is, viral or in mainstream media, so in wrestling, that Uncle Howdy return was huge, especially coming off of the passing of Bray Wyatt, rest in peace, right?
Yeah.
Anytime that we've done a watch along of, I think the Family Guy and South Park clips that we had posted, they gone. I mean, I Want My Money Man Family Guy clip. I think that was the first one that took off. So that's the thing too.
Either that or the South Park, but I think it was the Family Guy one that we did, and we just we posted it. Again, just posting stuff to post it, and that was the first one. And I think it was even you that started telling me, like, dude, my phone's like going off the rails. And then I started looking at mine, and I had like 100 or 2, and my phone was just constantly like, you got another comment, and I'm like, dude, this is happening. Like, it didn't necessarily almost go. It went viral in a small sense, but it was our first one to be like, oh, okay, people are liking something that we put out. Like, It wasn't just something that got like 3 likes and you never see it again. Like, people were commenting on it, and people still, we still get residual people finding it and liking it and or doing some type of comment on those. And our Game of Thrones stuff that we did, we still get some residual things from that. So that basically was able to show us, okay, stick around, not always trying to find viral moments, because I always told you, like, I feel virality is just a short term. It's what you do after that, or what you can do to sustain that and give people some type of content after that, because that virality is only going to last so long,
right?
And you want to be able to counter and capitalize off that. So
something like 6-7 weeks,
something like that, 6, 7.
Yeah, I mean, between the kids, and it's not really big at my school, because I feel like 6-7 fad is really like ran by the youth, right? Like it's really popular amongst them. So I feel like teachers took the big hit on that one, just on the day-to-day in those first 2 or 3 weeks. That it got big. I didn't run into it too much. I still run into it, but it's not that bad. And it depends on what studio, because certain studios lean into like virality, like viral post, like things in pop culture more.
And again, my kid is only 5 years old, so he doesn't have like the 6-7 thing. I know you are, with kids that are a lot older than that. Like, I have heard this 6-7 thing, but I don't know what it actually is about. Like, what is it referring to actually?
So apparently it's pulled from a song, but if you Google it, it'll tell you that the primary result of it is just internet brain rot. Like, it's just there for the sake of being there.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold any real substance.
It's just like you say it, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of those dumb kid things that we used to do, probably. Yeah. Like it means nothing, but it's funny to us.
Yeah.
Kind of how our podcast has been. Like, we say stuff that's like funny to probably not funny to anybody else.
And it's kind of like you had to be there, or you had
be within that thing.
I mean, we lean into so much inside stuff. It's like, no wonder our view counts are where they are. Yeah. Right? But yeah, if we really were pushing for major views and stuff, we would be leaning into more pop culture type stuff that would consume.
We never really talk politics. If we wanted to go that, we can talk politics, have our opinions out there, and have people, all over us and doing all that stuff. But again, there's so many other podcasts you can do with that. We just try to be as positive and as we can with everything. And
I think a lot, like, for me, my parents never talked about it around us kids growing up. So I I just stay away from it best I can, and I'm a lot more at peace with it. Like I know I know the climate today, like especially in the past 5 years.
Yeah,
it's super heavy stuff, and I'm like, the reason why, and for me being in the dance industry, part of that being the entertainment business, the entertainment business industry. Entertainment is there to take you out of real world problems, real life stuff. So I always try to lean into positivity when you and I are doing the podcast, and I'm like, definitely leave that part out.
Yeah.
Always from now on, always and forever, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
there's always somewhere else you can find that stuff. Like at least if you're watching this, like you said, we're trying to at least talk about stuff that'll take you away from the everyday BS that clogs our feeds and everything.
Well, you and I are so, like, we love laughing so much. That's why we laugh as much as we do. You got to take that. Okay. No. So our friendship, a big basis of it is comedy, right? Like,
yeah.
So
we've always just like goofing around and just trying to see how we can make the other person laugh.
Yeah.
So it's always been like a big thing of our friendship is just making each other laugh, and then now finding about like the Two Bears thing, and that's something we've always connected on. But yeah,
and it's been really cool. I don't know if cool is the word, but since starting the podcast and the hardships that you and I have navigated personally, being able to still come together basically every week. Every week. I mean, 200 episodes. That's 200 weeks. We basically have done. I think we missed maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Total.
Yeah. Even then, definitely within, we did 100 episodes nonstop
every week.
Within these last 100, we've had a couple weeks where we were like, okay, we missed one, or I think it was literally we did 100 and we missed a week, or no, it was 100.
I think it was 150 because I was
that's right, 150.
So last Thanksgiving, I had recorded the episode before I was going away.
That's right.
And then the audio didn't save. And
that's
you were like,
right.
And you were like, well, we had a good run.
Yeah. I was like, well,
and I was like
tear.
I was like, not on my fucking watch.
Yeah, you just came through like, I'm gonna save this, and it's like,
and I literally, I didn't have my microphone and all that, but while I was away, recorded 45 minutes, and was like, I'm getting this in. If we're missing a week, it's not gonna be my freaking fault. So once you missed the episode, I was like, hey, oh, you know what it was? I know what it was. It was the season 3 recap episode where you.
That's where
which, to be fair, you're taking the compilation of everything from the whole year 2024.
Yeah,
and you're like, I ran into so much troubleshooting, I couldn't even resolve it, so we just missed a week. And I was like, as long as it wasn't on me, I don't even care that we missed. and for it to be that kind of episode where you missed, I was like. Yeah, you put so much into those compilation episodes.
And it was fun, and then there was like some stuff that I couldn't render it down, or it was having trouble in the editor,
trouble reformatting,
and I had to reformat certain things, and it was taking me so long. I was never going to be able to get it done in time, and I think even in that aspect, there was stuff going on in my job, and I had to get that done first. Plus, we were having, Grayson. There was so many things going on. I'm like, I can't get this done.
You're like, we're going to lose out on this week. And I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't, at this point.
We had a good run with it. So I'm like, at the point where I knew that was like my thing to like, let's just keep that going week after week after week, see how long. And eventually, it's going to end. We're going to have to break the streak eventually. Yeah. But if we had to break it, that's at least, a fine way to break it instead of being like, we just don't want to record this week.
Yeah, we're not up to it. And I mean, at this point,
we've never really had that type of issue where like, we're not into it this week. Well, I can honestly, like,
we have always found a reason. Even if the content is weak sauce, we still get on to push the content just for the sake of getting on and you and I hanging out.
There's been numerous of times where we just go on and we don't have like even a topic to really go on. We just start talking and something comes out of it.
Dude, some of our best stuff has been just from winging the episode, dude.
Yeah.
And it's fun because, I mean, there's some anxiety going into it. Like, what if this is complete shite this
and
episode?
And then we have the but there's, knock on wood that we've never had that issue. The fact that, we thought that our ramble was just going to be nothing. It's always at least found some type of interest in the episode that we can like make a clip out of something and be like, okay, we can at least throw that in there and then make that the forefront of the episode of what we were talking about. So,
if anything, it's the solo episodes where it's like, this might not be any good. And I know one of the solo episodes I'd recorded and I ran into the audio thing again where the audio didn't record. And I had to redo it again. And when I redid it, I was like, I'm glad I redid that one.
Yeah.
I'm glad that one had to get redone. Yeah, because what I did was absolute shite.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think just the growth that we've had between 100 to 200 has just been even greater than from 0 to 100 and just knowing ourselves in and out. And again, like, we're going to do the same thing once we hit 300, whether that's 100 consecutive episodes up to that, or if we get there in another year and a half, we're going to get there. But, just knowing that we're still continuing to document our lives, talk about what we love, wrestling, sports, doing our watch alongs and, that, we can talk a little bit about our favorite, like moments from the whole thing. We were talking about it before, but I think the greatest one that we already talked about that I will always put at probably number one was the Mania Live podcast, because that just showed that we are doing something right and we want to continue doing this.
Well, you had been pushing to do a live recording since we started, and I was like, let me get my feet wet with this whole podcasting thing first, right? So you were going to Mania, I was watching from home, but I was like, you know what? Let me come up. Let's get this. Wrestling is such a huge part, one of the podcasts for us, but two, because it's such a big part. It was such a super significant part of our friendship when we first became friends in middle school, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and I know through high school. Like, you kind of fell out of it through high school, right? Or it was more...
It was more college, yeah. Once we graduated, it was like, right after we graduated, starting college, I kind of fell off.
And I wasn't paying super attention. I mean, it was Super Cena era, so I was just kind of like, this is... Yeah. We know where this is going. It's kind of boring. Mm-hmm. As we record this, and he's about to have his final match of his career. Right. They're launching the tournament, which... I would have to imagine Gunther's winning.
Probably. That's what everybody's saying, that he's going to eventually be the last guy. So
Sami Zayn, open challenge. Ilya Dragunov won the United States Championship.
Stoked.
And Gunther's been off TV for some time. He retired Goldberg. He lost the title to CM Punk at SummerSlam. Seth Rollins cashed in. And then obviously the Seth Rollins injury, Gunther had to get, I think, surgery on his nose done or something like that. So they had him off TV. He's going to return. Mm-hmm. They haven't announced the bracket for the John Cena tournament because they want there to be surprises along the way. I feel like the final for that is going to be Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov, and Ilya is just going to put the United States title on the line. Gunther wins, goes into Washington, D.C. for John Cena's final match in the nation's capital. And Ilya's just going to be like, you know what, let's throw the U.S. title on the line. Or that's going to be for the final against Gunther, which I think is going to happen at Survivor Series. Right. I feel like they're going to do that final at Survivor Series. Gunther's going to get the win. And then John Cena have one of the biggest parts of his career is the United States title run, where he did the open challenges, which really elevated the guys in the 2010s. And
Yep.
like it's good story there. We could talk about like what do you think WrestleMania is going to look like. We can save that. It's a little early. The Seth Rollins injury, I think definitely threw plans. So it's tough to say, but anyway, getting back on track. Well, it's not super far off track because we were talking about the podcast at Mania.
Right.
Right. Being one of our favorite in the last 100 episodes. I know for me personally, it's like just being in a better headspace, having clarity on the episodes, not forgetting the episodes. Like I look back in the first 100 episodes and I'm like, we did this watch along? Yeah. And that's just being honest, right? Like some of those episodes we didn't start recording till after midnight, and we were getting on between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. So that's like I was already a couple beverages in.
Right. Yeah.
So just like looking back and being like, oh, I don't even remember. Like,
right.
So sometimes we go to do a watch along, and I was like, and I'll ask you, I'm like, did we watch this? And so just know, like being in a better space and having better clarity and knowing what we're talking about and what I'm saying, just makes for a better quality of the podcast overall. I just, again, I think where we were for episode 100, I was still living with my parents.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and when I think about episode 300, I will have like entirely switched careers. You'll be 2 years into this job, permitting
if I'm still there.
But you know, you also said you might not necessarily be aiming to stay anywhere long term going forward because you had stayed somewhere for as long as you did.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like I said, it's the fact that they took care of me for so long, and that's like the longevity of it. But staying at a job like that long, like I guess in this day and age, like back then you can stay at a job like that for so long and kind of be like okay. But I think being at a job that long now just doesn't look good. Because I get so many, especially with like
almost looks like you got complacent, right?
Yeah, because I get some now that's on my resume. That the first thing they look at is like 15 years. Wow, like why were you there and what made you leave? You know, so I have to mention the fact that I got furloughed, then I got back in there, and then but the fact that I was there so long is they did help me with my health insurance. They helped me go back to school and get my education, and they were a family to me. So
right.
It was.
You also can speak to being a loyal employee. Like back then, that was important. That was significant.
Where now it's like I think I always thought like job hopping was a bad thing. I think it's more like people probably want to see that you have different experiences. Then they can be like, all right, well, he's done this and he's done that, so it's not as bad to be a job hopper.
Builds up your resume. I always thought the same thing 100%. Too. With like, oh, if this person's only at a job for a year or two and then leaving, it's the people who are only at a place for a year, then a year, so that they're hopping so frequently. Then that's almost like red flag,
right?
But if you're at somewhere from 3 to 5 years and then move on, it's kind of like, okay, you probably max out. If you know you're not moving up in that company at a rate that's like, okay, this is going to get me, significant growth, and fulfillment in what you're doing and pay, right?
Right.
It's okay, let me go challenge myself to doing something new, right?
Yep.
Which I think that, when you look back on your last company laying you off, you're almost set up now to feel comfortable with transitioning from this job to that job to that job. So like you said, by episode 300 you could be like, okay, I'm ready to move on to that next thing, and you get to make that choice on your own. Right.
It would be nice instead of just being forced into doing something like that again. But at least I am with a good company.
You might love
this
your
time.
job enough that you're like, I could see myself being here 4 or 5 years.
Right.
Right.
Because there's again, just like the last one, but even with this one, there's definitely room to grow in this company to be like that management position. But I've always, said like, I'm not sure if I really want to be in a management position because I love being in the lab so much. So like once you get higher and higher, you get out of that position. But I love being in the lab and just working in that type of environment. So again, but I never know. It could be 3-4 years that I'm working there and I do get that promotion and it just looks better. I might want to take that at that point. I might have a different feel for it.
So that on your resume, you can say, I have leadership experience on the resume, so that when you do apply for moving on to a different company, they can say, all right, well, he's got growth potential because he started as a tech or in QC or whatever. And he also has management experience, so that if he does wind up staying, we know that we can count on him to go into that kind of so
exactly. So it definitely doesn't hurt, but
I'm excited to see where this next job takes you. I mean, I'm always gonna be, but I think after your last job, and you had that almost was like a stepping stone to get you into this position here.
I definitely needed it because I didn't have like the experience at that point before that second job to really get me to this current one. So I think that short amount of time there helped me even more to get this one. So, again, we were talking about the fact that I had a point to be in this position at this company almost a year and a half ago, but it didn't work out. And now I'm actually in there with another opportunity. So it's fun. Again, it's like those things like how funny how life works in mysterious ways type of thing.
Box of chocolates type stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, I just putting this out there. I can't wait for Halloween next year.
Yeah.
I literally blew right through this past Halloween. I mean, I sat at home and I watched the World Series game. I was just like, everything in my head was just, I'm just started in school. My whole headspace is that. And I'm like, I'll make up for it next year. And I've already got a couple pretty good ideas going.
Cool. Yeah, because, that's another almost one last thing. Like we've always tried to have like big like things like in the last episodes, like trying to be more in person. Things happen. We wanted to try to be more in person. A lot of personal things happen, so we weren't able to. We like to try to do in person like specialty type things like the pool episodes. We weren't able to do it this year, but again, a lot of our personal things happen around the summertime, so we couldn't.
Summers are just hard in general, dude. The schedules always get a little bit hairy because like all of the things.
And it was just hard to kind of do it because of the job that I had. I was working 11, 12 hours Wednesday through Saturday. So, and then with your schedule, it just didn't work out that we were able to find. If we were only able to do it, it was going to be on a Sunday.
Yeah. So Cheyenne and I had upgraded from a smaller apartment to a nicer size apartment. And once I got to the summertime and saw because my teaching schedule gets later, so my funds get slim. Yeah. So I was literally outdoor dashing just like a lot. So my availability was very narrow because I was just trying to make it work on the financial front, but made it through. And then. So now it's just like, okay, I got a plan for next summer, but then the summer after that, I should be out in the field in my new career and things will be way different.
I'm excited to see when you get to that point, because just the fact that you've been killing it so much with just being in school and you're keeping the grades and just how focused you are. Like outside of dance, this is the most focused I've ever seen you outside of like doing stuff with dance.
Well, I feel like I have like a purpose and I'm determined to follow this through. So
it's cool to kind of see you like when you're telling me like, oh, this is what we did. Like it's cool to see you excited about something again like that. Because we're always excited about music, excited about dance, because that's our passion. But it's cool to see you excited about this. So I'm excited to see when you get into that field, when you actually start doing that job, and then I'm gonna see the different things you're working on. Like you're gonna be showing me like these, like, dude, look what I have to effing work on with this thing.
You're gonna catch all the videos, all the pictures.
Stoked, dude. It's gonna be awesome.
that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to, is because like you're gonna get to see stuff that people don't usually get to see.
Exactly. Those are the things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome to just see like just candid photos and just videos of you just working on these planes. And
so just like we're talking planes, because I haven't really talked about what I'm going to school for.
If I'll edit that, but if anything,
episode 200, it's a good time to say. So I'm going to school for aviation maintenance. I'm going to be a mechanic on airplanes, which is just the craziest thing. I never thought in a million years that was going to be a thing.
Right.
I'm pretty stoked about it. So just different category airplanes. What determines a smaller airplane from a larger airplane is literally the weight of 12,500 pounds, right? So my teacher was telling me yesterday, just to put it into perspective, anything over 12,500 pounds is considered a larger transport category airplane. He was saying, the one airplane I worked on the other day, and I never been on a plane this big, the fuel tank in one of the wings of the plane could hold almost 13,000 pounds of avgas, which is aviation gasoline. Mm-hmm. That's in one wing. Mm. One wing could hold almost 13,000 pounds of fuel.
Jeez.
Just think about the entire plane, how big that thing is. And I was like, I can't wait to be working on these things, dude. It's gonna be insane.
I'm stoked for you in that aspect.
There is a lot of safety measures to take to make sure I don't die out there.
Yeah.
But this teacher that I have now was like, there is a lot of fear mongering out there. When something like this happens, it's usually because a lot of people were super negligent, and just not paying attention. Mm-hmm. You got to pay attention, and the biggest part of your job is paperwork, because if you don't fill out the documentation right and that plane moves on, and he's like, that's where you're going to get hit. That's where you're going to lose your job, or people are going to die.
Yep.
And C, you're going to jail. So like,
yep.
That's I'm excited about like the potential money I'll be making, but it's because there's a lot of risk, right? So they're like, so paying attention to that kind of stuff and being in the right headspace are super important. Just to kind of wrap this up, I think about where we started at episode 1 and where we were at episode 100. I was actually telling my kids the other night, I've never been so happy in my adult life. So like, just to know, like feeling like a better, like you said, I seem like way more focused than I'd ever been. Mm-hmm. Just feeling genuine happiness has been like a real thing. And I have you to thank for that immensely. Like you said, the podcast definitely helped save me in the earlier days of the podcast. Mm. And just having been there, we love to make each other laugh. We love to try to take each other out of our own personal life BS type stuff. I just want to say thank you, and I love you so much.
Love you too, dude.
I love that we are still doing this. I still do it because coming into episode 200, I was like, I don't know if we're going to be able to finesse the time to be able to do this podcast, but we're going to make this work because I want to keep this moving. We're just not going to have the extra time before and after recording the episode like we used to. It's going to be tighter.
Yeah.
But we're still going to do this.
Life changes, but this podcast will definitely, remain something that will be important for us to continue to do. So
that we have these times to document and look back on. And I'll be able to say, man, just cringe at myself, or maybe even to both of us.
Even
in the
just
first
looking at the stuff we were looking at before, it's like, what were we talking? Like we were saying about the title. Like, where did we come up with the title? Like we didn't even know what we were talking about.
But part of me in that time was like, I want to be creative about some of these titles so that it forces us to go into the episodes to figure out why we called the episodes what they were.
Yeah.
So when we get to a time in our lives where we're able to where we have extra time, it's like, let's just sit back and watch this entire episode and be like, man, what a bunch of jabronis we were.
There's a time where eventually I want us to just once we get to 300, just going back and having like at least a time where we can sit back and watch all 300 of our episodes, just to see the real change of like, wow, episode 1 sucked. Like
if we don't do it by episode 300, I think we owe it to ourselves by episode 500, where we're going to go look back at clips of the first 100 episodes and be like, maybe that is just our, like, part of our episode 500 thing that we do, is we look back at the first 100 episodes and be like, dude, remember, just think about where we were. Mm-hmm. So I know the episode 100, the big thing was like, wow, we made it to 100 episodes. Mm-hmm. I feel like for episode 200, it's really just reflecting on where we were when we started the podcast, and where we were in the last 100 episodes, and all the things that we've gone through. And I feel like this is kind of like, if I had, like, I am actually really looking forward to episode 300, because I know how different our lives are going to be at that point.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. Anything else before we want to hop off of here?
Just, I'm glad to be still doing this with you. Glad that this, because I've said it before that I've had done things with people before and it's never really worked out. So just like you, how you were scared, I was scared that this was gonna, like, somehow change our relationship, because sometimes when you, get in, and we don't really label this as a business, but when you, like, collab with, like, certain people, sometimes it can, you get to really see, like, okay, is one person more committed than the other, and stuff like that. But I've definitely seen, like, over these episodes that, and it's proven and shown me that we both are on the same page. We take this as serious as the other person does.
Yeah.
If anything, just, you had to kind of just catch up because you wanted to learn how to do this thing and be on the same level as me. But
you're so light years ahead of me on the editing front. Like I know you can blast through, and you have different software and equipment, so when I do the editing, it gets the job done. But yeah, I know I can do it.
But even the fact that, like, I don't have to, that just short, that was like a short-term thing to be like, at least I know this, we still have the same, friend relationship, where even more, because we're, again, we learned through this podcast that we were both Swamp Thing people that we never even knew. So we're still learning stuff about our friendship that we never even talked about.
Revelations through the podcast was that we never knew in all of the years,
and that was genuine. We never knew that, and we literally found that out on the podcast, literally at that moment. That was so cool,
so fun, dude.
And we're gonna just continue to do this because this is something important to us. And again, we like we said in the beginning, we're not looking at trying to be a big viral podcast and like having thousands of views or like thousands of subscribers every week. If we do, cool, that's great, but this is always going to be like a documentary to our friendship and our daily life. And we appreciate the people that even if they stay for 10 episodes and they never watch it again, we appreciate your time tuning in to just see a couple of dudes just talking about their life.
Yeah, that's literally it. I mean, that's not to say that at some point down the road it won't get to that point, but the scary thing about that is that it will start to feel like a business, and then we'll have to be even more careful not to let I have to say, there's got to be separation. For me, having gone into business with my family, it's tough, right?
Yeah,
and that was the one thing, is I was like, this podcast cannot come between me and Anthony's relationship and friendship.
Right.
Like, that was so important to me that we kept this light. And I know that there is opportunity to get it there, but we have to owe it to ourselves and our friendship to say it can never come between our friendship. Like, it's just
was like
so
something
important.
that was like a little scary for me, because I just didn't want that to really, like, this thing to kind of change anything, and it definitely hasn't. We've always kept our friendship first, and we've always said before that if it was between doing this podcast and us staying friends, we would have stopped this podcast 100%.
Yeah.
But
100%.
It's just coming to the point where this has been something that we look forward to doing every week, and like it's now like, what can we talk about this week that we haven't talked about before, or something that somebody would want to hear us talk about, instead of us always talking about what we want. What's something that's like thinking of certain concepts or whatever, but now we're getting into more of like what other people would want us to hear, instead of just talking about the same stuff every week.
Sure.
So again, we're changing, we're evolving.
As we are evolving individually in our lives, the podcast is going to organically evolve too. So I think that the big thing is, right, like, because we missed a couple episodes and the streak got broken or whatever, it's like, I know if I am in a tight spot with school, you're not gonna feel a type of way at me if I'm like, I can't do the podcast this week, or if you're like, I gotta go solo this week, or if you can't do it, if we miss a week, it's not the end of the world, right?
Right.
Like, if anything, it's like, we might be able to film 2 episodes down the line and make up for that lost time, and it's no trouble at all, right?
We're able to just, understand that, family life comes first, that, the podcast will always be here. If we miss a week and if we lose people, it is what it is. There's going to be, if we lose 10 people, there's always going to be additional 10 people that can make up for that down the line.
Right.
So it's not as much of a big concern to us anymore, that if there are times where we do miss it, it's not going to be like, oh, bummer, I wish we really could have done that.
It's not for a lack of commitment to the podcast. It's just because life is that hectic in that moment, right? Like, and
this will be the last thing I say, because I know we always say, like, oh, what's the one last thing, and then it takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I will say that doing 100 episodes straight has given me the mentality that I can do anything for 100 days straight now. Like, I've been trying to physically, better myself, by just committing myself to, get myself back on track with being more healthier and doing stuff that, like, I neglected to kind of really get myself back on for a lot. So I've always had that mentality. Like, I did a podcast for 100 days. There's no reason why I can't do anything for 100 days straight now. So that's always been something that I got to thank both of us for staying committed for 100 episodes straight, and even more. But, it's just given me that mentality to be like, we've done something for 100 days straight, adapt that to something else in your life.
Exactly.
Like, go, commit yourself to that for 100 days, or, it doesn't even have to be 100 days, but, like, do this for, a full month. See if that doesn't change.
If we could do 100 episodes straight, that's 2 years straight of we managed an episode every week.
Yeah.
Right? In your mind, like, if I could do that, if I could put in the time to make that happen, what else can I do? And that was my thing. Like, anything that seems challenging to me, and I'll just say, like, if I could give up drinking, if I could quit drinking, what else can I do?
Yep.
And that's why, like, like, my mom's like, I've never seen someone turn their life around as much in such a short amount of time as I have you. And I'm like, I'm invested in myself, and I'm trying to owe it to myself, and also see, like, try to tap into my potential.
Yep.
And try to really realize my potential and be like, if I could do that, what else can I do?
Yep.
And that's the whole thing with playing the guitar. We didn't talk about it when, like, me learning the guitar or putting myself out there to get voice lessons and start singing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if I really just commit myself to something, I could be really kind of good at almost anything.
Right.
So, like, that's been the really rewarding part about it. And like you said, with the podcast and doing 100 straight episodes, and we're 200 episodes strong. Even if we missed one or two, we're still 4 years in with 200 episodes.
Yeah. It's not like we've just gotten to 100 episodes now and we're like, it took about 5 years.
Yeah.
But like, we're 200 in, and we're looking to do a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Dude, I love you, man.
I love you too, man. It's been a blast. I can't wait
to do this again in another 100 episodes. And for everybody watching, just like we always say, if you're here for the first time, thank you guys. To all our OGs, thank you for being great supporters to us throughout these 200 episodes. We hope you're here for episode 300. And make sure you guys are following us at One Set Pod on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. And as always, right here on YouTube, hit that notification bell. Jim, let everybody know where they can hang out with us outside of our episodes.
That is the Facebook group One Set Fam. That's the number One Set Fam on Facebook. Come hang out with us. I mean, at any post in there, we always comment back. Yep. And that's how we engage in our One Set community. Love you, bro.
Love you too.
It's been a blast. This has been One Set.
One Set.